Alright, so these are the best seats that money can't buy, because to sit here, you need to be a member of the written media. Um, so the first two rows are reserved for members of the Baseball Writers Association of America. The other two rows are reserved for other writers from other magazines and newspapers around the country.
This isn't pretty awesome spot.
So we'll talk about the wall a little bit more. If you look out for the big monster, you'll see a manual scoreboard out there. That's one of only 3 manual scoreboards left in Major League Baseball. So there's 3 guys that work behind the wall during the game. One of them keeps track of the score here at Fenway. The other 2 keep track of the scores on the games going on in the American and National Leagues. Now the guy who does the Fenway score and the guy who does the American League scores, those 2 guys stay behind the wall throughout the entire game. But the guy who does the National League scores, that guy actually has to run out in between innings during pitching changes, because when they built the seats up on top of the wall in 2003, they put a big industrial beam behind where it says National League. So you can't actually get behind that National League part of the wall anymore. So that National League guy has about 2 minutes to run out there and change all those National League scores. So he'll be firing those numbers up there pretty quickly. And the working conditions inside the wall are just like 1934. No heat, no air conditioning, and no matter what Manny Ramirez may have led you to believe, no running water behind the wall. There is Wi-Fi, however. So we talked a little bit about movies at the beginning. We talked a lot about baseball. We've also had a lot of other sports here at Fenway. There's a long tradition of American football here at Fenway. Back in the 1930s, there was an NFL team that played here at Fenway. They're now known as the Washington Commanders. They originally started out here at Fenway, and then they moved down to Washington after those last years. In the 1940s, there was an NFL team called the Boston Yanks that played here at Fenway. Now that team went bankrupt after about 2 years, but you can see why a team called the Yanks playing at Fenway, of course that team's going to go bankrupt. Then in the 1960s, upstart American Football League, AFL, Boston Patriots, played here at Fenway for about 5 years. Now the Patriots bounced all around the city of Boston during the 1960s until 1971. They found a permanent home down in Foxborough. You now know them as the 6-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Woo! Yeah! Woo! All right, there we go. We got some cat stands in the crowd today. Usually people start throwing trash at me at that point. All right, we got some cat stands. There we go. All right. And then we've had hockey, 2010 NHL Winter Classic. Boston Bruins defeated the Philadelphia Flyers 2-1 in over. We got a Bruins in the house tonight. There we go. And then we got, and they actually just announced the Winter Classic is going to be returning to Fenway this coming January 1st. And then we've also had soccer. The Red Sox owner, John Henry, also owns the English Premier League team Liverpool. So every few years, they'll convert the baseball diamond into a soccer pitch and have a soccer match here. And then, well, we've got all sorts of other stuff. Irish hurling, that's a really intense sport. If you've never seen Irish hurling before, I like to describe it as lacrosse being played with field hockey sticks. So that's so all sorts of stuff here at Fenway. We've also had a lot of concerts here at Fenway. We've had Billy Joel has come several years. He's coming back this year. Paul McCartney is returning this year. He's been here a few times before. We've had the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith. We had the Backstreet Boys. I was first in line for that show. So Lady Gaga has played here.
Yeah, I was just warming my ears.
So all sorts of stuff here.
Your ears are not covered.
Now a few other things I want to point out, getting back to baseball. If you look out to right field, does everybody see this where it says Samuel Adams out in the right field roof deck out there? If you look below Samuel Adams, you'll see some numbers out there. Those are our retired numbers of all our great Red Sox players of all time. So number 9, that's Ted Williams, the greatest hitter who ever lived. Now Ted Williams hit 521 career home runs, and he could have hit a lot more, but he missed about 5 years of his career to military service as a fighter pilot during World War II and the Korean War. Now when Ted was in the military, they tested his eyesight. They discovered he had better than 20/10 vision. He had eyesight that was so good it only occurred with 1 in every million people. And I want you to keep that in mind for a story I'm going to tell a little later on the tour. Then number 4, that's Joe Cronin, Hall of Fame shortstop, player manager for the Red Sox. Number 1, that's Bobby Doerr, Hall of Fame second baseman. Number 8, that's Carl Yastrzemski, Yaz, as he's known around these parts. So Yaz had some pretty big shoes to fill, taking over for Ted Williams as the new left fielder after Ted retired in 1960. Yaz did a pretty good job. He won Triple Crown winner in 1967, also won the American League MVP, 3,000 career hits, Baseball Hall of Famer. The number 7, that's Carlton Fisk, Hall of Fame catcher. I'll tell a story about him a little bit later. The number 6, that's Johnny Pesky. Johnny Pesky's actually not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Every other number up there is either in the Hall of Fame or going to be in the Hall of Fame soon. But Johnny Pesky was a great player, not quite Hall of Fame caliber, but he was associated with the Red Sox for over 60 years as a player, manager, coach, broadcaster. There's even a rumor that Johnny sold hot dogs at a game one time, just to say it truly done it all. Then number 14, Jim Rice, another Hall of Fame left fielder. So the Red Sox have 3 generations in a row of Hall of Fame left fielders, from Ted Williams to Carl Yastrzemski to Jim Rice. Number 45, that's Pedro Martinez, the only pitcher to have his number retired by the Red Sox. Pedro won 2 Cy Young Awards while pitching for the Red Sox. Also won a Cy Young Award over in the National League with the Montreal Expos. Number 26, that's Wade Boggs, the Chicken Man. Wade Boggs, he ate chicken before every game. He won 5 batting titles while playing for the Red Sox. So that's Wade Boggs. And number 34, Big Papi, David Ortiz. I could do a whole tour about Big Papi, but I'll break it down for you. 3-time World Series champ, 2004 ALCS MVP, 2013 World Series MVP, countless walk-off hits and home runs here at Fenway, so that's Big Papi. And then the last number out there, number 42 with Dodger Blue, that's a man who never played for the Red Sox. That's Jackie Robinson, the first African-American man to play Major League Baseball when he broke the color barrier. In 1947, played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And then in 1997, Major League Baseball decided to retire Jackie's number throughout all of Major League Baseball. So no Major League player, coach, or manager will ever wear number 42 again, except for every April 15th, which is Jackie Robinson Day, when every player, coach, and manager wears number 42. That's the anniversary of Jackie's first game in the Major Leagues. Now, one thing I want to point out before we head out of here is it's really hard to see, but if you look out to the well, it's not really hard to see, it's hard to describe where it is. If you look out to the right field bleachers, the second section from the grandstands, so about 20 rows up, do you see something sticking out there? Do you see a red seat sticking out there? Yeah. All right, so I'll tell you the story of that red seat. So the red seat is the marker of the longest home run ever hit in Fenway Park. It was hit by the great Ted Williams on June 9th, 1946. Now, I mentioned earlier, Ted had that spectacular eyesight. So on that day in 1946, Ted Williams looked out from the spot where that seat is, and he saw something that was completely unacceptable. There was a man sleeping during the game. So Ted said, I'm going to do something about that. Now, the man sitting in that spot that day was a man named Joseph Boucher from Albany, New York. Mr. Boucher was in Boston on a business trip, and he decided to catch a doubleheader. And back in those days, you could buy tickets to a doubleheader and stay and watch both games. So Mr. Boucher watched the first game, but before the second game, he got a little tired, so he decided to take a little nap. And it was a bright sunny day that day. So Mr. Boucher was wearing a straw hat with a round brim that went all the way around. So Mr. Boucher pulled the straw hat down over his eyes and he went to sleep. So Mr. Boucher did not see the second game start. He did not see the great Ted Williams step to the plate in the bottom of the first inning. He did not hear the crack of the bat when Ted Williams hit the ball, and he did not see the ball traveling to exactly where he was sitting. But he did feel the ball when it went through his straw hat, hit him in the head, put a little bump in his forehead. He was okay though. They gave him some smelling salts, woke him up, and then he stayed and watched the rest of the game. But when the game was over, some reporters caught up to him. They said, "Hey Joe, what happened to the ball?" He said, "Well, after it hit me in the head, I kind of lost interest in it." So they never recovered the ball. But Mr. Boucher had a question for the people. He said, "How far do you have to sit from home plate at Fenway Park to be safe from this guy, Ted Williams?" And the answer to that question is 503 feet, because that seat is 502 feet away from home plate. So that's the story of Joe Boucher, Ted Williams, and the longest home run in Fenway Park history. And the next day on the front page of the Boston Globe, there was a picture of Joe Boucher holding up his hat, sticking his finger through the hole in the hat with a headline that read "Bullseye." So, we're going to head out of here and make our way towards the Green Monster. So follow me down this way.